Jack London's novel, Martin Eden, we see a powerful psychological portrait of a man who is slowly destroyed, not only by society, but also by himself. Martin is a talented, sensitive, and ambitious person. He wants to rise above his social class, to prove his worth, and to be recognized. However, the higher he climbs, the deeper his inner conflict becomes. He realizes that success does not automatically bring meaning, love, or inner peace. The gap between his dreams and reality grows wider. Loneliness, emotional exhaustion. Identity crisis. Who am I really? One of the deepest psychological roots of Martin Eden's drinking is an identity crisis. He lives between two worlds, his poor origin and the intellectual world he wants to belong to. He does not fully belong to either of them. This creates a painful question inside him. Who am I really? The feeling of inner fragmentation, being torn between different selves, produces strong psychological tension. Alcohol becomes a way to temporarily silence this inner conflict and escape from the pressure of self-definition. Conditional self-worth. I am valuable only if I succeed. Martin builds his self-worth on external success. He believes that he is worthy only if he becomes famous, respected, and recognized. This is called conditional self-esteem. Such a psychological position is extremely fragile. Every failure, rejection, or criticism becomes a direct attack on the self. The fear of failure grows, anxiety increases, and alcohol appears as an artificial source of confidence and relief. Instead of developing inner self-acceptance, Martin becomes dependent on external validation, and alcohol helps him survive this emotional dependence. Emotional exhaustion and overcompensation. Martin lives in a constant state of psychological overstrain. He pushes himself to the limit, intellectually, emotionally, and socially. The gap between his ambition and his inner resources becomes too large. This leads to emotional burnout. Burnout creates symptoms such as loss of motivation, inner emptiness, fatigue that sleep cannot cure, loss of pleasure. Alcohol functions as a short-term antidepressant. It gives energy, relaxes muscles, slows thoughts, and creates an illusion of rest. But in reality, it only postpones real recovery and deepens exhaustion. Existential emptiness, loss of meaning. After achieving what he dreamed of, Martin discovers something shocking. Success does not bring inner meaning. Recognition does not heal the soul. This leads to existential emptiness. He begins to feel that life has no direction, that achievements are hollow, and that human relationships are superficial. In such a state, alcohol becomes an escape, not from problems, but from the frightening experience of meaninglessness. In psychology, this is called existential anxiety, the realization of inner emptiness that a person cannot easily face. Isolation and lack of emotional connection. Martin feels deeply misunderstood. The more he develops intellectually, the more isolated he becomes emotionally. He lacks true dialogue, real intimacy, and psychological support. Human beings are not designed to live without emotional connection. Loneliness intensifies addictive behavior because alcohol temporarily replaces human warmth. It creates an illusion of company, even when the person is completely alone. Self-destruction as a hidden psychological wish. At a certain point, Martin's drinking is no longer only avoidance. It becomes a form of self-destruction. When a person feels chronically misunderstood, emotionally exhausted, disconnected from meaning, disappointed in themselves and in the world, a silent wish to disappear may appear. Alcohol becomes a socially acceptable way to slowly erase oneself without openly saying, "I want to end this." This is not about weakness. It is about deep psychological suffering that finds no other expression. In Jack London's autobiographical work, John Barleycorn, the psychology of alcohol addiction is presented not simply as a bad habit, but as the result of a deep motivational shift in personality. London shows how an originally healthy social motive gradually turns into an abnormal and destructive need. At the beginning, the hero does not drink for pleasure. He drinks in order to belong, prove himself, and take a full place in society. Working in the port as a young man, he wants to be one of the guys. For this, he must demonstrate strength, courage, and readiness to take risks. Alcohol becomes part of the social ritual. Fights, weekend gatherings, tests of masculinity. Here, drinking is still only a means, not the real goal. Shift of motive to goal. The original motive, self-affirmation and social recognition, is not fully achieved. The person still feels inner insufficiency, incompleteness, and lack of self-worth. But the external action connected with that motive, drinking alcohol, becomes independent and begins to live its own life. What was once a tool for social acceptance gradually becomes a central psychological need. Alcohol turns into activity with meaning in itself. The hero plans his day around drinking, calculates how much he may drink after finishing pages of writing, and emotionally depends on the very fact of drinking. Thus, an abnormal need is formed. From a psychological perspective, addiction appears where self-affirmation is not realized. Internal emptiness stays unresolved. Recognition is insufficient. The person continues to search for meaning through external stimulation. Jack London subtly shows that fame and success do not cure this inner deficit. Even recognition as a writer does not eliminate the need for alcohol. Therefore, the root motive, deep self-acceptance, was never satisfied. The organism gets used to alcohol as a way to regulate emotions, cope with anxiety, and avoid existential pain.